Hello everybody, thank you for watching today. It's our 26th Berlin Real Estate Talk. Today our expert is Mr. Andreas Müller. Hello Andreas.
Hello, Arvind.
Andreas is my business partner for many years, and he's a real estate agent for over 30 years here in the city of Berlin. And today we are talking about the prices we have seen in the year 2021, what has happened this year. It's now end of October 2021, and we will also cover an outlook of the year 2022. Please don't miss to register on our YouTube channel or check out our social media profiles.
Okay, we start. At the beginning of the year, we already talked about the development of the real estate prices. Now the year is almost over. Has anything changed?
Yes, a lot of things have changed. First of all, we can see the end of the coronavirus, or at least the pandemic. We're having, I think it's now end of October 2021. And we have seen a lot of changes. First of all, we have even less supply than in the beginning of the year. We have less supply means we have less properties on the market, especially when you look on properties who are made for investors. So most properties we are selling are for owner occupiers. I think this was a big trend during the Corona crisis, that we have seen a lot of different people buying for themselves. And before the Corona crisis, we had more foreigners coming to Germany and trying to invest. Also a lot of Germans trying to invest. I would say the German market is now 90-95% of the whole market, German buyers. Before Corona we had maybe 80-85%, because during the Corona crisis less international people could travel to Germany and inspect apartments. And also they kept the money where the mouth is, as we say, so they tried to invest in their home countries because they were nervous what's happening to the Berlin property market. In general, we have prepared a little graph for you to see the price development we had this year, and also a little forecast for next year. We have chosen our Berlin office address, which is in Reichsstraße in Charlottenburg. So as you can see here, I just made the general assumption, which is the year of build in the year 2000, which is now 21 years ago. We have modernized the office building this year, the residential building this year is 70 square meters, which is a 2-bed or 3-room apartment. It's very straightforward in average condition. So we are looking here around 6,800 euros per square meter as the average price, which would be a good deal actually for this area. I think we would even get more on the current market. We are now looking at the price development in the past. So anyone who bought in the year 2018 and before, they made a nice profit. You can see the price increase per quarter. If you want to have such an evaluation for your existing Berlin apartment or house, please feel free to contact us. Even if you're looking to buy from a different broker or from a developer, we can give you this kind of overview. Again, this is free. You can use our website at blakelandproperties.com. Just fill out the contact details and the property details, and then you get a valuation similar to this after one of our agents will give you a call. Interesting is the outlook. So you can see what this software thinks what will happen in the next 12 months. So what's interesting is the quarterly growth rate. We are more conservative brokers, so we believe the price range will go up, but not as much as many other brokers might think. So we also consider that there will be, as we say, a stable growth rate. So you can see the growth also from the system here is KY, as we say, or artificial intelligence. And it's very good, I have to say. We implemented that here in our company a few years ago, and at the beginning it was a bit difficult, but now we're very happy, and it's very precise. So we have a concrete growth rate this year. For next year we only have 3.5% growth rate. That's something you can see on the bottom there, 3.46. But I think the growth rate will be a bit higher than that. So we always work with 3 to 5% here in the company when we do the forecast, and then we have the nearly 14% growth we had in this year or in the last 12 months, which is about right, I have to say. But that's also for the address in Reichsstraße in Berlin West End. So that's a little bit the price development we had so far. A little outlook for the future. Of course, it always depends if you're owner occupier, if you're an investor. If you're an investor, please feel free to contact us as well on the rental income. That's very important. What do the rents What are the rents doing? Is it the new build and refurbishment? What do we have as regulations in there? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The second one is in Germany and Berlin, we will soon have new governments.
Yeah.
But in Berlin, everything will probably stay the same. Do you expect new regulations?
Yes, I do expect new regulations. I think we are already a heavily regulated market, especially compared to other cities in Europe. We have a left-wing government in Berlin, even though all the Berliners, or the majority of Berliners, are very disappointed with the Berlin Senate, the way they are, the way they're ruling the city, especially the way they are executing the laws, which is a big problem. So many people are not happy because, of course, the rents, especially when you're not a tenant, the rents are very high, and people don't earn enough money to rent new apartments. And so therefore the politicians are under massive pressure. But I don't think they have a real plan here. I mean, they have tried to implement the rent freeze, which didn't work. The federal court take it off, or said it's invalid. We have more regulations that have been implemented this year already when it comes to construction. The construction laws itself have changed a little bit. The regulations on the new builds have changed already a few years back, that every developer who gets a planning permit has to develop a certain percentage on social housing there. We have a lot of rental regulations for existing buildings. We have the so-called Enteignungsinitiative. So I don't think there's a real English word for that, but it's that the government or the majority of the German voters or owners in Berlin could buy apartments. The government should buy them for the owners. I'm sure you have read about that in the media. I think 56 or 57% of Berliners are in favor of that. I'm not sure if they really understood what that means. So that the government or the state takes away ownership from large private conglomerates who own more than 3,000 apartments in Berlin. So that's something that will be on the topic for next year for the new Senate. We have sadly have the same parties involved like we had in the last 5 years. I think the last 5 years have been terrible, and I think the next 5 years will be terrible as well. And I don't think any bright future for Berliners living in the city. When it comes to the politicians, I'm not sure they are actually any very well educated people who know what they're doing. I have to say, I really lost my faith in the current Berlin Senate. This is really difficult. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The next question is for the same point. What has changed as a result of the failed rent cap?
So what has changed? First of all, during the rent cap, a lot of owners who used to rent out the apartments, they realized that the rent has been capped to whatever, 5, 6, 7 euros a square meter, which run them into negative cash flow, especially people who have owned apartments who are older than 2014. So all of them have tried to sell the apartments because every month losing money, that's not the reason why you own a property. And so they have sold properties, and each time a tenant leaves, they are selling that apartment. So that's something that still continues. So every owner who has bought a tenanted apartment, and especially when they have had the 10-year tax break behind them, they are considering to sell because it's tax-free if you sell a property in Germany. So at least it's tax-free when you made some profit. This is the next point. Of course, first of all, you have to do some profit. But that's absolutely the case. So we had a lot of resales of people who have bought with us or with other brokers before selling the properties now, because the prices, once the apartment is vacant, are very high, because you do not sell them to investors, you sell them to people who want to actually live in these apartments. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We have a new point here, a question. Is it still a good idea to buy property instead of renting, despite the high prices?
Of course. You just have seen our graph.
Yeah.
And borrowing money is very cheap in Germany, especially you're a German taxpayer. Just for the people who haven't bought yet in Germany, if you are a German taxpayer and have a good contract here, you get a mortgage with maybe 10% deposit, let's say 15%, and it's very cheap. You get interest rates between 1 and 2%, depending on, of course, the deposit and the purchase price and your income and your other securities you might or might not have. And if you compare buying to renting, it's still much cheaper to buy in 80% of the cases. So yes, I think it's a good idea to buy.
And the next question is about this point. How should I build up my financing in order to benefit from the lower interest rates in the long term?
Yeah, so first of all, if you haven't bought yet in Germany and it's the first property you're buying, please use an international mortgage broker. It doesn't make any sense to walk into a retail bank or use the online portals because they usually are made for a German audience, not for international ones. There are very few international banks who would actually borrow against a German property, especially if you don't earn German income. If you don't pay taxes in Germany. So if you're a foreign investor, you need a much higher deposit. You're looking at anything between 20 to 50% deposit, which is of course quite significant. And therefore your decision needs to be very the decision you make needs to be very well educated. So you need to know what you're doing. Interest rates, I think I already mentioned a few points. The other point is the repayment of capital. That's another big point. So you should make a clear plan until what time you have paid off part of your mortgage. That's something the bank will watch out for or look out for. In terms of the finance itself, it's you should go for a long-term fixed contract. 10 years is the minimum I would advise because we all think that interest rates will go up in the next 10 years because they're now at 0 point something percent. And I don't think in 10 years' time we still have 0.5%, 0.7%. And that's something very important for everyone buying. In Germany, you get fixed interest rates, for a period of 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, even 25 years you can go for. And in some cases, I would advise to go for as long as possible to get you the very low interest rates. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Is there currently a bubble?
No.
Do you expect a correction wave in Berlin soon?
No, I don't think there's a bubble. Despite the media, we just had that in the German session. I just have shown a lot of reports from the German media. They're all talking about bubbles in the last 5-6 years. And you have seen the price development in Germany, so there wasn't a bubble so far. Of course, you always say there's no bubble until it bursts. However, the bubble always exists when people are speculating with property, and we don't have a speculation in the market. I know a lot of people don't like that when I'm saying that we don't have a real speculation here. What we have are private individuals who are buying properties to live there themselves. So the investors don't really pay these high prices anymore compared to the owner-occupiers. And once you buy an apartment for yourself, you live in there, you are saving the rent, which is a very big argument. And the second point is you usually go through a German mortgage broker or you go directly through a German lender, and they will check if the property is actually worth the money you're paying. And the second one, they check, are you actually able to cover the mortgage even you're losing the job, you have a health problem, you need to change the city, some of the people are dying, or all these things. So in Germany, the way to get a mortgage is very strict, very rigid compared to other countries. I just remember the subprime market in the States quite a long time ago now, I think 12 years ago. And there we had people buying properties with no money in their pocket. So that's not the case in Germany. It's very strict.
Okay, thank you. The next question is about recent Berlin. Does the recent Berlin vote to size property hold any national legal power?
Say that again, please.
About the vote for Enteignung.
Yeah, to size property.
Yes,
No, I don't think so. First of all, we had that election in Germany this year, especially in Berlin. Over 50%, I think it was 56% of Berliners voted in favor to size property from private companies. They were targeting the bigger companies, I think 3,000 people, 3,000 apartments or more. I think that will never come into effect. There are too many hurdles. Again, we are not lawyers, but we had lawyers here in that real estate talks of Black Label, and they all confirmed that none of them is believing that will come into power. I think it's more a political thing that the politicians are being put even more under pressure to do something. And I think what's the solution here is to do a private-public partnership. I think Andreas said that already in the German version, so that the private people need to sit down, private developers together with the local politicians, and then to come to a fair conclusion for everyone, because I don't think the state is actually capable of building any of these apartments in the near future that would change the market significantly. No.
Okay, I think we come to the end. Finally, a philosophic question for you. I would compare renting or buying with be or not to be. In relation to Hamlet's situation, the statement probably refers to buy or not to buy. So if we apply this to the purchase of a real estate, should I or should I not now?
Yeah, this is a very good question. Thanks.
Hamlet did not know an actor at this time, at that time.
Yeah. So I think we have seen what has happened in the past. So in the past, I think we always can look on the past. It's not always right to look on the past, but in the past, if that's the only thing we know, was always better to buy than not to buy. Yeah, except very few occasions where you might have bought in a different wrong city, wrong location, from a wrong developer, all these things. But that's something good brokers will avoid you from, and we'll make sure that we are one of the good ones. So I think if you buy with us, this doesn't happen. However, the big question is what's the opportunity? So you always should leave this I don't know, this so-called thinking in boxes where you think this is the price per square meter, this is the apartment. You should think, what is this apartment solving for a problem? So I'm looking to live in this apartment for 10 years, for 2 years, for 5 years. Do I want to have a family? Where do I live? Is it actually cheaper to rent? Is it cheaper to buy? And do I want to commute to the office? Do I have actually to go to the office? Is it more home office? What do I enjoy in life? Do I want to live in a different country, different continent, and all these kind of things? So, and again, I think if you have the opportunity to purchase the property, you need to make a compromise. Don't, and that's a big topic. I mean, I think we have more than 500 new inquiries every week. We have sold no more than 140 units this year, mainly to Germans. I think 130 Germans and maybe 10 international people have bought from us this year. And I think all of them who we now can congratulate to have bought a property are owner occupiers, 90%, the vast majority. They're all very happy. It's an emotional thing because they buy their own home. Yeah. It's a good feeling. It's a lot of things to do with emotions. And you are free. You have your own property, and you can forget all about these crazy regulations we can see here when you are tenants and renters. And this is very bad because you are basically out there in the heavy sea, as we say, trying to find a place. And if you don't know someone and your friends and you have flat share, all these things, this is really awful. And I have to say that the German property industry is not responsible to do social housing. It's something that is a social job. So it's part of the community to do this together. And we are here in the blame game. We're here to come, it's basically, we need to come up with a question, are we a part of the solution or are we part of the problem? And I think we as brokers, our job is to be part of the solution and to moderate these transformation we will have in the next few years, where you can see people trying to get an apartment. Is it for renting or buying? It doesn't matter. It's both our job to find them an apartment. However, we have such a shortage of apartments that our job is at the moment only these listings we generate. We only focus on the seller at the moment because it's just not possible to focus on the buyers. There are just too many of them. I think we have more than 30,000 people waiting to buy and only 200 apartments or 300 apartments to sell. You can imagine what that means to the price. You can imagine what that means to our jobs. And you also can imagine what that means to the future. I mean, to build more apartments, first of all, you need more land. And then you need land that is cheap. At the moment, there is no cheap land out there you are aware of, I'm aware of, at least not in the big cities of Germany. So in the near future, we don't see any change in terms of price dynamics. The only thing we see the change is the kind of apartments, the amount of people living in them, the surface, of course, how big these apartments are. I mean, if you look on the amount of apartments we have in the city of Berlin, we have a lot of huge apartments where people live there, one couple or a single, and they live in 100 square meter apartments or 150 square meter apartments. Yeah? Because they don't find a cheaper apartment, which is smaller and maybe, I don't know, on the ground floor or the first floor. They don't have to walk up 5 floors and all these. So people are locked into apartments at the moment because they have no choice. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that is a problem. We need more transformation. I think I have prepared a few things of a great German developer. The name is called Skerven Group, and you can Google them up. They do send out newsletters. They're partly the competition, partly not. So please check them. And I think it's a great report. I think you can register on their website. So I'll just give you a few facts and figures. Record sales of 220 billion euros on the German residential real estate market this year. So we have, based on statistics, so we have less land that's being sold, minus of 20% of sold building land. We have 7.7% increase in transaction volume, however less transactions in total when you're looking on the amount of single notary contracts in general. Yeah, so a lot of stuff is in there. You can watch out. However, the housing prices are continuing to rise, and I think this is the future as well. Yeah, so less planning permits in the city of Berlin because developers don't want to deal with the Berlin Senate anymore because they're just terrible, they're not reliable, and so just developers go elsewhere. That means they don't do new apartments in the city of Berlin.
Okay, thank you, Arjen, for this information.
Thank you.
At last, I have a private question for
Yeah.
you. What you will do at first if you will be Bürgermeister from Berlin?
Yes. So if I'm the mayor of Berlin, first of all, I don't want to have this job. Don't worry, Andreas. I think it's your job. But the first thing I would do, of course, I would try to get the social housing problem solved, and for the middle class. So when we talk about social housing, we're not talking about people living from the government, because actually they do get apartments, because they get preferred listings from the council. But I think for the normal people, just having normal jobs, earning the money, paying taxes, I think that's the first thing I would do. And I would do this with the so-called Genossenschaften, so private companies who are making profit. And so they own the land, but every profit they make, they build an apartment, they build an apartment complex, they invest into the apartment or into another land to buy and do more apartments. And people can buy shares in these companies. So actually people are shareholders of their own apartments.
Yeah.
That's established. I think it exists in Germany since over 150 years. And I think that's the only solution we have. So we have to take away the land from the government. We have to take it away from the developers, because they usually do luxury apartments. I mean, if you look on our website, new build, nothing below 8,000 square meter anymore in good areas in Berlin. That's not what people want. People want a normal apartment they can buy, which is maybe 4,000 square meter, maybe 5,000, and then that's it. Then basically the ceiling is reached, and that's the only people who can do that are people who don't need to make a profit. And in order to help them, as a mayor, I would give them land for a low price, because they would solve, I think, the problem. Yeah. So it's, again, the private people will solve it, not the state. And you need to give them regulations that they actually are able to do that. You need to give them tax advantages. You need to give them a motivation that all the profit they make, they have to reinvest into building more apartments, affordable apartments, and that they can get more owners or share owners of the company who would then live in these apartments as tenants or as party owners. I think that's something we had in the 90s already in Berlin, where it was very, very cheap to live in Berlin. I think you know that. It was a great city in the 90s, even the 0 years. And then, of course, at the end of the 0 years, the market basically boomed, and now we're having these crazy prices. And I still think the prices will go up, because we have such a terrible situation in the city of Berlin. Yeah, compared to Hamburg, for instance, or other cities in Germany, it's much, much, much better. Even the prices are even higher, but people do find apartments. Yes, it's tough, but there are solutions. I think the other thing people should watch out for are looking for different places. I mean, you don't necessarily have to live in the city of Berlin. If you go to the city of Berlin at night, in Mitte, for instance, or in other areas, you find no one there. It's basically dead. People go to small villages, especially in Berlin. You have small little areas where you have their own so-called Kieze, where you don't have to live in Berlin Mitte or Charlottenburg or Kreuzberg. You live in small areas where you have your supermarkets, you have good public transport. You can go to other cities in Brandenburg, for instance. You can commute with the public transport. We have very good public transport in Berlin and in Brandenburg, which is a province outside Berlin. And yeah, that's, I think, the solution.
Yeah. The difference between the 90s and now is we have more people with higher income in Berlin.
Yes, much more.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for watching tonight, and I hope you enjoyed the session today, and please register for our YouTube channel and register on our website for more webinars to come. If you have precise questions, please contact us anytime, and we will try to respond to them as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.